Hello and welcome to the very first episode of this, the PAB podcast. I have no idea what I want to do with my life, and maybe because I like too many things, or maybe because I'm afraid of making such a decision. But that's okay. I've decided to take this quest of figuring out what I want to do by having conversations with cool people and learning more about myself while I learn from them. So, in today's show, I have a conversation with an Australian champion in salsa, cha-cha, zouk, and bachata, and a second place in the world in 3 different world championships. She's a business owner, a dance teacher, a cat mother, a genuine and bubbly person, my good friend Angela Faith. We talk about thankfulness, dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic while owning a business, and being a world-class performer, among other things. I hope you love this conversation as much as I did, and thank you for being here.
Bless.
So this is basically a personal search, yeah? Because have I told you that I'm like trying to figure out what I want to do, career-wise, and I don't know?
Yeah.
So I've always had this thing going for me, which I'm like interested in a lot of things, like very different shit, from like dog training to like poker to like magic and biology and mathematics and philosophy, and like you can tell me anything and I'm gonna be like, all right, that's super interesting. There's very few things that I'm not interested at all. And then, which is a great thing in itself, but then you're like, you get to the moment, all right, I gotta choose, because you're meant to do something,
Yeah.
And the great thing about quarantine is that I've had a lot of time. So I've had a lot of time to just learn about new shit, learn about new things.
Things to your list.
Yeah. So I'm like, wow, that's neat. I wanna learn about psychedelics, I wanna learn about that music theory, like wow. So I've gotten to a point in which I'm like, I'm almost 29 years old, next month, 29, and I need to do shit,
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing this. I'm saying, all right, so if this is the moment of my life that I'm in, it's figuring out what I want to do. It's like, all right, I'm going to ask people about it. People that have figured that out, and that, or seem to have figured that out, or have chosen that. And yeah, just go through that story, because I think that's fascinating in itself anyway.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you. Besides, we always have good conversations.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like this is like we've been pen pals though.
yeah, exactly. It's like thanks to the quarantine, we've been able to like do this, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Because it always starts from like, how are you doing with quarantine? And then it's like, and talking about our religious past, and talking about, yeah, any kind of theory and self-development, So
Well, that's what set it off, wasn't it? I think you answered something on one of my stories, and then I left a voicemail saying something about, oh, when I was in church, and then you were like, wait a second. And then it was like, like the thing from Futurama.
Yeah, and I don't think you even said like something about church. I think you said something about, I don't know, you used the word and I was like, that's a church girl.
That's a churchy right there.
So
Clarity.
yeah, one of the things I'm very curious about, and one of the perspectives I really taken, especially now this last 3 months, it's gratefulness.
Yeah.
So I really want to know today, right now, what is something that you're very grateful for?
So Daniel and I do 3 grateful things a day, right? So I'll tell you, like every day it might change. Sometimes it's a same topic. I mean, a same thing, and sometimes it's different. So for me today, my grateful things have been Daniel. He's been a constant source um, of working hard, but with a focus and a drive, not just working for working's sake, although it can appear working for working's sake. And he's so bloody, like, so supportive. I never dated anyone who was supportive in the way that he's supportive. And he's just like a massive, like, cheerleader. And I think that it's really easy to I feel like there's so much in the world right now that's like, you got to be your own cheerleader and you got to, like, hustle, like, work friggin',
Get shit done.
yeah, like, and while I do agree with that, my type of personality, at the very least, I get so stuck in my own head that I become, you know, that saying, what is it? Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
And for sure, if you're someone that likes many things, you would get that as well. Like, I
All the
like,
time.
like, you know. So I have all of these big, grandiose ideas, and he's like supportive, but he's also like, okay, which grandiose idea do you want to focus on? And kind of can, like, which is good. The second thing is technology. If technology wasn't around, if this pandemic happened 15 years ago, I would be working in a supermarket right now, where there's nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't have been able to continue on my plight with plight. How interesting. I don't think I've ever said that word in my life. um, of keeping the connection with my dance community.
Yeah.
And because of technology, students have been able to continue paying me. So there's things like direct debit now that didn't exist in the way that it does at least 15 years ago, you know.
Yeah.
And I have some students who have no desire whatsoever to do online learning because they just, I mean, they love the connection. That's what I sell. I sell connection, you know. And they love to be involved in the activities kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't do it for them, but they're still keeping up their membership because they want a dance school. They want a community, a physical community to come back to when this all finishes. So technology massively. And then obviously I can provide my dance classes in some capacity. And then thirdly, my cat. I get so much joy from my cats.
Yeah, I love it. I think everyone knows your cats by now.
I feel like if I go to the studio, I won't want to teach in the studio anymore because I'll just miss my cats. But they're just like these little creatures that, they make me feel genuine joy in a place where I feel like I don't often feel genuine joy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, it's a physical reaction that I have, and
Yeah,
I love.
it's weird, isn't it? Because I have never lived with cats until I moved to this place.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been like a dog person, and I'm a dog person, and I love dogs. Dogs saved my life, and
Yeah.
I like, yeah, dogs all the way, you know? Like I want to have 5 dogs when I grow up. So like, but then since living here in September, I've been able to interact with the cat of my housemate, and he's a beautiful, beautiful cat. Like he is so patient and chill, and like during quarantine, it's been really important to have that contact with this furry being, you know, that even though it only pays attention to you when it wants something, you still are like, yeah, you're great, man. Like Yeah, I love that pair. Yeah, you make me feel good because you make me think that I'm being useful for something, during this time of being just in these four walls,
And it actually becomes addictive. Like, have you ever played a game on your phone that becomes addictive? Like, you really want to get that next level, win that next
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
It kind of becomes like that you want to make the cat purr. Like, you want the cat
Yes.
so happy with you that it starts purring.
I know. And I think it's oxytocin that it's related to it. You know that feel?
Yep.
Like for example, my cousin had his baby this last week,
Hmm.
and he's in Chile. And I'm like never attached to babies. I think they're ugly all the time. But that baby, it's like I see photos and videos of the baby, and I'm like,
Aww.
what a wonderful creation you are. What a wonderful evolved little monkey, Like, oh, he sees a finger, he's like, I'm gonna grab it. And then he doesn't know what the fuck is going around him, and he just wants to sleep. But then you see it, you just look at it, and you're like, you see the little baby, and you're like feeling good. You feel this intense love,
Yeah.
and it's all these chemical reactions that also allow you to just create this bond, this magical bond of we belong together, like, I'm gonna protect you from everything, and I'm just like an uncle.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it feels to parents. It must be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. That's actually uh the the thing that actually turns me off from having kids. Being so attached to another human that you put yourself so last that sometimes it's the deterioration of yourself,
Yeah,
emotionally, physically, financially, all of that. And I know, like, everyone says it's the most beautiful thing, and I definitely went through a phase where I did definitely want kids. But it's like, whoa, it's so much to take on. And you see like how much people, their worlds just change.
yeah. Your worldview changes, I think.
Mm.
But that's
Yeah.
exactly why I want to have kids. Like, I actually want to be a father
Mhm.
during this life. Like, I really want to, and I want to experience that kind of love, you
Mhm.
know? Like, Um, and the main thing is because everyone talks about it, you know?
What
How
happens if you
people,
have a kid and you don't feel it?
I think I think that it's going to be a new experience, I think it also has to do with my life view of every circumstance helps you to grow in a way and learn something new. And since I'm in this quest of search for everything, I think that actually does sound good.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that it's very likely that I'll experience that. If I don't, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's good. Positive attitude's always good.
So when do you do these three things? Do you do it at the beginning of the day, as soon as you wake up?
No, I can't function as soon as I wake up. It depends. Sometimes it's via text message throughout the day to Daniel and I, or sometimes it's like later at night. Sometimes if we don't see each other, and if he's working on a site like that, he just has no time for his phone, or my day's crazy busy, then it's just thoughts in the head. The idea would be to actually write it down, but we haven't gotten there yet. I haven't haven't started the whole journaling thing.
But if you could, well, if you send texts to each other, you can like create a group on WhatsApp of that, just that, and you're gonna be on your phone anyway, both of you. So
That's
you just do it and you just have it there. And that's your gratefulness wall.
that's good. That's actually very intelligent. I like that thought. You are much smarter than you look.
I'm a box of chocolates. That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
actually thankful for my yeah, for the baby,
No.
for my
You're
cousin's
obviously
baby.
really close with your cousin.
Yeah, yeah, we're very close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he lived here, like in a working holiday visa
Mm-hmm.
a few years back, and we got along really well. And we always got along, but him being here was really interesting because I learned a lot about myself and about life because of things that we did together, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have a very special bond with my cousin.
Yeah.
And seeing him become a father, you know, it's like it's weird, you know? So yeah, you're the guy that I used to play PlayStation the whole day with, and
Right.
now you have a baby and you're crying over it, you
Oh,
know?
how
Like
old is he?
that's amazing. How old is he?
Yeah.
He is 20. Oh, he's 30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Third. Yeah, 30.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I can't wait to go to Chile and meet the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
Do you have I mean, pandemic, you can't even really say where you're going to be tomorrow, but would you want to be going back like at the end of the year or as
Well,
soon?
the initial plan was to go end of the year because my sister was planning to get married in Chile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's the ideal. I
Mm-hmm.
think that it will be possible now. Um, yeah, just because of the projections of COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, which is a very interesting subject in itself. I love COVID, the COVID subject, and all the different things that it's originating. It's such a culture, society shock, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting. How have you been dealing with your business and everything? Because obviously it changed everything because you have a dance studio.
Mm-hmm.
So your role is to teach people to dance.
Yeah.
So how have you been dealing with it?
Um, for me personally, I really made sure that I hit the ground as soon as I could and hashtag pandemic words of the pandemic pivoted as quickly as I could to online. So, to my knowledge, I was the second school in Melbourne to close, um, but I was the first to go online. So, I just put all of my energy into what can I do. Um, and I reckon about the first month, I was just so much throwing myself into how to keep people feeling engaged, feeling active, feeling like they still have that connection happening. Um, that I didn't really have time to think about the economical effect that it was having on my business. When I did focus on and take a real look at what was happening on the economical effect of my business, because I also just thought, I'll get JobKeeper and it'll just be like fine and easy. And then um, that got stuffed up because my accountant had just not gotten around to doing my 2019 tax return, even though I'd been asking him since September, October last year. And he was kind of like, oh, well, the doors have closed. Too bad. Do what you can. Good luck on your way, kind of thing. And I had to beg and beg and beg for about a month. Please apply to like have a late thing. And just last week, I got notification that they were able to accept the late entry and that I can get JobKeeper from next month. So I won't get back paid, but and that was a massive roll-on effect because with the commercial lease, I was not going to get any help whatsoever, no allowance of a reduction or anything like that from my real estate unless I qualified for JobKeeper because that's what they had written in the what the government had said, if people are doing so bad that they're getting JobKeeper, then you need to slice their rent. So they were just, I was having to pay full commercial lease rent for the last 2.5 months, but now because I've qualified, so that definitely will help. And it was really interesting because this one day I posted, like, I'm actually really surprised at myself how well I'm handling this. Internally, I was like, I've got this, I'm just focusing on the good. And I posted about it. And then literally the next day, I turned to shit. Like, I was like, I couldn't stop crying. I was like, oh my God, this is like, I've worked so hard for this for so long.
Yeah.
And I am working so hard right now. It's exhausting. It's a lot harder to teach online because it's, you don't get the feedback energy. So
Yeah,
you're not being replenished at all. And you're also dancing a lot more, because when I'm teaching you guys in the class, I might demonstrate and do it with you a little bit, but then I go around and I'm fixing, and you know, in a partner class it's high five, change partners and all that kind of stuff. So that takes up a little bit of time and you don't realize. So when you're dancing the whole time, because the students, they don't have a mirror, number one, which when we had the community center, we didn't have a mirror. But also they don't have people next to them to feel the energy. So I have to keep going the majority of the time. And so for about half a day, I literally was like, oh my gosh, this is crumbling. This is so hard. With the memberships that we had, it was covering the rent and instructors, and that's it, which still is only covering the rent and instructors. But then I spoke to a friend, Laura, and she's like, here's the thing. You don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to teach. You don't have to keep trying to smash out this business. If you need to do what's easier right now, get Centrelink, or, which I actually didn't qualify for Centrelink because Daniel earns $10 too much.
Wow.
Yeah. Or go work at the supermarket if you just need to chill for a little bit and just get the money, you know, just hands off, all good. And I was like, you're right, it is my choice to be in it. And I just, that kind of changed my way of looking at it, which it's so funny. Literally, as I'm thinking about this right now, it makes me think about relationships and what we would classify as bad relationships, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm just going to talk. I'm not really sure what's going to come out. But
this is the best part.
I've had a couple of long-term relationships, and long-term, it's anywhere between 6 months to 3 years, different ones, right? And in that, there was 3 people who cheated that I knew about who cheated, like caught. Like, there's just no denying, even though one of them absolutely denied it with photos. Like, doesn't matter. Moving on. And after the last one was definitely the progression in a bad way of how bad it can get, because it wasn't just like hook up, it was literally they had another relationship going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So the thing is that I found that he was cheating early on. There was physical abuse. I went back to him, and after, when we finally broke up the very, very last time, I was talking to a kind of like a counselor slash, I don't even know what she is. She's a bit hippy dippy. She's a bit like, I don't know. She just makes you think about things really differently. Yeah. And she was like
a mediator between you two?
No, not at all. No? We were not allowed to communicate anymore. But she runs like group sessions, and there's a bowl. Like, I mean, it's also private sessions. I know this doesn't make sense, but I have no idea what she is. She's kind of like a counselor, but in a hippie way.
Yeah.
Anyway, she said to me, how many red flags did you knowingly pass? And I was like, oh, probably a lot. She's like, so you actively chose to stay in the relationship. And it's like, oh, yeah. So then I started taking responsibility for that and for kind of my own hurt, not blaming him anymore. And it completely changed that my response to myself then after that completely, right? So then coming back to this, when Laura said, well, you don't have to stay in this business if it's really causing you that much hurt and angst and agony right now, just put pause on it. Like, you actually have done that before. If you come back to it, great. If you don't, okay, that's okay too. And it really made me question, is this what I want to be doing? And part of it 100% is yes. I want to do other things, but I know this is part of that whole greater picture. And so it made me come back to my why. And you think about that book, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. Have you heard of that book?
Yeah.
Yeah. And thinking about why I do what I do, what do I get from what I do? And you always have to weigh up, does the hardship and the heartache balance out like the good stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
That it's still worth it, or is it tipping? And if it's and if there's that much good stuff, and there's just that much good stuff, like if I had $1 for every person who's written to me and said, your classes have kept me, like, all the good things, feeling good, pulled me out of a dark place. For some of them, people are not even doing classes, but they've said just knowing they're there and you'll allow me to come back whenever I can had a good effect on them. For others, probably from an egotistical point of view, this made me feel good. But for others who are involved in other dance schools, they were given an ultimatum, like, if you want to stay a part of our team, you have to keep doing the online classes. And online classes are not for everyone. Whereas me, I'm like, do them if they make you feel good. If they don't do them. That's okay. Like, and so then they had that reflection and that positiveness of you will be welcome back at any time. That makes me feel good that they feel like I have created a good, safe environment that's open now, later, if you're paying your $1, if you're not paying your $1. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. So then again, I just got back to doing the work. I had my half day of crying and then got on with it. So and now, like, I'm tired. I'm really tired. I'm physically and mentally just tired. But I believe that there will be an end to the pandemic, but I think that I will be walking out of the pandemic with an added value proposition to my business, in that I plan to keep the online classes going. And right now we have people doing our classes who are in Geelong, who are in Switzerland, who are in Canada. So, it's not like a giant amount of people, but still that option is there. And yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good opportunity. Like, a lot of people haven't realized that this situation, the unique situation, is boosting up online business so much, which can give you like an extraordinary amount of added value.
Yeah.
Like, you can have your classes, your live classes, but then if you just record them and put them up, you can have people watching them down in 10 years, and you can still reap the benefits of that. Like,
Yeah.
I think you should feel very proud of yourself, because you are looking at all the possibilities you have, and not a lot of people do that. And I love that you touched on balance. You're looking for balance of what the positives are against the negatives, and I think life is all about balance. You see it in nature, you see it everywhere. And I think that that's a very, very, very important thing to have, and also to consider the good that you're doing for other people. I think that's very important when you're doing anything, and especially business, you know?
Mhm.
So feel
Yeah.
proud of yourself, Angela. I think you're awesome. I think you're
Thank
awesome for
you.
how you've been tackling this entire thing, and that you allowed yourself as well to have a day of crying, you know, to feel shit.
Yeah.
That's something true. That's something true that was happening to you. That's something that you needed yourself to experience,
Yeah.
and that you didn't choose to be overcome by it.
Well, I think it's really funny because I think that I've done the most self growth in my whole life in the last 2 years since I moved back to Melbourne. And usually, if I have this super really down time and down moment, I then feel anger to myself for having that down moment.
Yeah.
And this time I didn't. I was like, oh, guess what? You're still human. Pinch, pinch. Yep. Still a normal human. Like, not this grind that is in the business world talking about. And I know that I try really hard to have Sundays off to have with Daniel. And I know that I need that tiny little bit of balance. Um, and it's not always a whole day, but it definitely those kind of things. So I was happy with again, I was like, it was a little tiny baby light bulb going, oh, you've progressed. You've progressed to allow yourself to have that shit down moment and
Yeah.
be okay with that. That
Mm.
was actually like, oh, go you.
Pat on the back, mate. Yeah, it's awesome because I think it's important that your friend also told you like, yeah, you can choose.
Mm,
And a lot of people actually don't have that. Um, yeah, we get a lot, we get super stuck sometimes in how we're feeling, how overwhelmed we are,
hmm.
and we just have to sometimes just stop
Yeah,
and just think very logically about the situation you're in
yeah,
and detach the emotions for a little bit. And yeah, you have the power of choice, especially us super privileged
mhm,
Western society people. We have so much choice, you know, and a
exactly.
lot of people try to blame it on their parents, try to blame it on the system.
Yeah,
And yeah, there's a lot of shit that is real bad, you know?
yeah.
But you actually have a choice. You like it or not.
And most people would have said to me, you can do it and just push through, you'll get through it. That's what
Yeah.
most people would have said. But
Yeah.
the fact that she was like, so don't do it. I was like, wait a second, that's not supposed to be your response. She's like, if you want to do it, you can do it. But if you don't, like it was just so simple. And I think that we do try and overcomplicate things. And it's funny whenever I meet people who are like, oh, I really want to go live overseas for a year, but it's a year and all of this kind of stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
because especially if you're Australian, you cannot fail. To go and live overseas, literally, there's no way that you can fail because you can come back. If you can't get a job immediately, there is Centrelink. If you get health problems, you come home, Medicare. Like, not that we want to rely on the government. And that was a massive hit to my ego as well because I come from a really poor mentality family.
Yeah.
And um, to have government help was like, stab in the guts. Like,
There's a lot
I'm
of pride there, yeah?
I can do this on my own kind of thing. Like, very, very much so. My mum actually gets annoyed at me sometimes because I've been renowned for not asking for help so often in my life. Like, I've lived in my car for 2 weeks because I didn't want to ask for help when I needed money. My mum tells a story. I know you're a boy, but sorry, I'm gonna say it really quickly. But my mum tells a story that she didn't know when I was like the young teenager and as a girl starting to get my period. She's like, she didn't know for months because I just sorted it out myself. Whereas she felt like, oh, mothers and daughters, that's a thing, that's a moment they connect on. And
Yeah,
I
exactly,
I
yeah.
was like, I got this myself. I don't need no help.
Is
So
that the proud Angela right there?
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, so just even that government perspective of needing that. However, you know, I pay my taxes and I do what I have to do, and so I think as an Australian, if I had to add a fourth thing to be grateful for today, it would be because I'm Australian. You're Australian now?
I am, yeah.
There you go.
Australia,
We're
my third
Australian.
income.
We're Australian. Bloody oath, truth. Um, yeah, I'm incredibly grateful to be Australian. Um, as much as people always tell me that my soul is not Australian, that my soul is other continents, but I'm really grateful that I'm Australian. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
me too. Me too. We got it. Yeah, we're very fortunate. Like
Mm,
because I think it's really important as well when you're making decisions and you're trying to figure things out, is that you put yourself in the worst case scenario.
hmm
Because a lot of the times we're just frozen by fear. So
Well,
it's like, okay, what is it that you fear, you know?
yeah.
Put yourself in that situation, feel it, what it is. Okay, so if you want to start something, like worst case scenario here, it's okay, I just have to get paid by the government. Well, look for a job.
Have we shared a podcast on fear recently? Because I listened to something recently about fear.
Is it, I think I sent you the fear setting,
Yes,
fear setting one.
that's it. I was like, why is this ringing a bell?
Yeah, fear setting. Yeah, it's an interesting exercise. It's good.
Yeah, I still want to
So
do. I actually forgot about that.
you didn't do it. Ah,
I'm gonna write it down right now.
it's good. It's good.
Where's
Um,
my pen?
yeah, it's good because it makes you analyze why. Well, it also helps you get to your why you do things, and yeah, just face fears. You know, what's the worst case scenario, and if that happens, how are you going to tackle it? What's something that you can do? So it's
I
good.
have a friend who he loves this quote. He's in real estate now, but man, if I had $1 for every time he said this quote or posted this on his Instagram, and he always says, you know, what is fear anyway? Something like fear everything and run, or something everything and rise. Fear everything and rise, something like that. And it's like, because I hear him say it so much, I'm like, oh, okay. However, I actually think there's merit in that.
Yeah, I love cheesy things now because I used to make fun of like cheesy quotes and stuff, but
Yeah.
now I love them because there is a lot of there's a lot of truth. You're
hmm
like, okay, they're cheesy because they make sense. They're cheesy because people actually think they have some value, and
hmm
I'm like, all right, you should listen to that.
hmm Well, they say that jokes are only funny because there's an element of truth to every single joke.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, yeah, I think that's the same with quotes, for sure.
So, why did you start your business in the first place? Because you were always like teaching and traveling and performing and competing, and then you decided to just settle down and start your own thing because you were teaching at other schools in Melbourne before.
So this is my fourth business. Um, I have had pockets of time running the business thing. So the reason for the business this time
Hmm.
was actually Daniel. When things didn't work out with the Last Dance company that I was teaching for, I had planned to just go teach for someone else. And Daniel was like, I think it's time you tried your own thing again. How about you try your own thing for 1 year, 12 months? And if you don't want to do it, if you're not into it, if you don't, if the balance is not there and the bad outweighs the good, then go teach for someone else. So I agreed to that, and the year was like up and down. tumultuous year. Got that word from 10 Things I Hate About You for all the 10 Thing fans. um, and then I felt like, okay, I can do this. And I've always wanted to be in business with a partner. I don't like being in business by myself. So I had intended to get a business partner really early on. And Daniel was like, yep, great, get a business partner, but in 12 months time. Let's just see how you go. And I've had lots of people come to me wanting to be a business partner. And it's really hard to make that decision because I've just worked my ass off for the last year and a bit doing what I'm doing. So the value add that they can bring, that's a whole other story. But so the biggest or the best memory, the best feeling memory that I have of my whole career, performing, competing, everything, all the things, is there's actually two moments, but the biggest one is I remember when we first started TSF and it first really started to take off, and we used to have dancing after class. People can just, social dance after class. And I remember looking across the room at this group of students who they ordinarily, these people in society wouldn't have connected. They had different religious backgrounds. One was Christian, one was atheist, one was Muslim. They visually looked different. There was one guy who was always in a wife beater and pluggers, and he looked like he thinks he's living on the Gold Coast in Melbourne. That kind of look, boardies, that type of thing. And then this other lady, who I believe she was Italian or Greek or something, clearly was doing very well for herself. She always looked immaculate, her hair perfect, her makeup perfect, Christian Louis Vuitton shoes, a skirt suit type of thing, and a Louis Vuitton handbag, like always top notch. Then there was this other lady who was kind of smaller and cuddlier and super giggly, and to these people they wouldn't ordinarily come together. They wouldn't ordinarily connect in society as it was. But now, after class, when everyone was social dancing, they all had a bit of a social dance together, and then they were all planning to go out to dinner together, which this was a common thing with them now. And I just thought, it made me feel so good to see these people connect in this way, and that I had created that space to do that. And I wanted to see more of that. I grew up very open, but also very closed. So the church closed everything, but I grew up in the country where there was an Aboriginal community, so there was like black people and white people, and we all lived harmoniously together. There wasn't really issues. I grew up with my godparents being two gay men, so sexuality was not really a thought until I started going to church, in that, like, the man and the woman type of thing. I didn't even think twice about that. Like, love literally was love when I was a kid. And so when I created or brought Infinity Dance Company back last year, and now Energia Studios, I wanted to elaborate on that more. And the thing that I kept seeing was that right now it's in fashion for ladies to lead and men to follow. However, that wasn't the case for such a long time, but there's also many classes that you go to where the men, they have to lead, and the ladies, they have to follow. And it's the language that's used in class is, okay, ladies, you're going to do this. Okay, men, you're going to do that.
Yeah.
I've encouraged even the people that teach for me, just so you know, at Energia Studios, we say lead and follow. We don't say men and women.
I love that touch because when I first did a class with you in North Melbourne,
Yeah.
I was like, she's using lead and follow. I dig that. I like it. You know,
Oh, that's good that you noticed that.
yeah, I love it. Because for me, as a Hispanic Latin American born and bred guy, like
Mm-hmm.
there's these yeah, gender structure
Mm-hmm.
that is, yeah, the guy's the one that does takes initiative for this kind of stuff. And actually, funny enough, the very first time that I did I followed was with Daniel.
Really?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
funny.
And I was like, there's this bulky guy, you know, like, all right, I think he looks Latino. This is gonna be interesting. He was like very rough, but like very nice, you know, and like very humble, you know. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much, you know. And that's pretty much, yeah, my only interaction with him. And but I also think that through dancing, you can figure out a lot of things about a person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like you can sense a lot of things. So for me to experience that and to be like, you know what? Yeah, you don't need to be leading the entire time. You can also follow.
Yeah.
You know, like it's okay. You're not gonna be less of a man. You're not gonna be less of anything you want to be.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so I think that was a very nice distinction.
I love that Daniel was your first lead and
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious. That's so funny.
That's funny.
Um, I also think like it's really difficult because where salsa comes from, I'm a big believer that we have to honor the origins of something that we're taking on. Like I'm always saying, I'm not comfortable to teach orishas because it's connected to a religious thing for a culture.
Yeah.
I'm also a bit like I don't want to call on a bat like a spirit that I didn't mean to call on, because I didn't understand whether you believe that or not. That's that's up to you. But I'm also conscious of that, like bringing a certain energy in. However, then on the other side of that, I think that dancing had it kind of became too sexualized. It is sexy, absolutely. But it got to a point where it actually started turning people off because they were like, "Oh, it's too much." And I think it's fine to have that, but not for it to only be that.
Yeah.
And I think that when we're not making the roles one or the other, like men and women, and we are making it lead and follow, it kind of breaks that down a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Because and I've actually had people say, "Oh, tell me when you have classes that are not lead and follow based. I don't want to dance with another man, or I don't want to dance with another woman." And I say, you're more than welcome to join our newsletter. However, it definitely won't be happening while I'm the director of the school. And you can go to, and I tell them names of other schools that they can go to that are very men lead, lady follow schools. Which shocks people, I think, because people are used to people in business accommodating all the time and being like, okay, I'll create a class that's just for that.
Yeah.
That's just not how I'm gonna go. Possibly the literally the only issue I can see going down the track is for performance teams when it comes to lifts and tricks. Power. Like, yes, I know that the girls can also, do some tricks with the guys as well, but when it comes to power, like a guy's power is just different to a girl's power. So that's the
it's
only thing that I can see.
yeah, it's just biology for me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Why do you become a dancer in the first place anyway?
um
Why did you decide to be a dancer? Because obviously you love dancing. That's what I assume.
I was definitely that kid who was always dancing around. My godparents were performers. my godparents were dancers. They played the piano. They sang. They were a part of a variety show that toured around. They used to be on TV, you know, in the midday, doing the TV shows, entertainment and stuff like that.
That's it.
Yeah, so that definitely, it was like stuff that I was around a lot, and I took on, and I was always dancing, and I would create shows with the kids in my neighborhood and make all the parents sit in my backyard, and we would put on the shows. But I didn't really start going to dance classes until I was in my teenage years, which is quite late for someone who becomes a professional. I mean, in the salsa world, you can become a professional anytime, but I mean an actual trained dancer. Almost always, not always, but almost always, they went to classes since they were 3. And I had a stepfather at the time. I think it was my mum's 3rd marriage. Yeah, 3rd one. Who he and I didn't have a good relationship at all. And so I spent half my time in church and half my time in dance classes just to not be at home with him. And the rule of the house while he was around was that I wasn't allowed to move out of home until I either got married, which in Wodongo you get married at 18, 19, that's fine. Or if I went to university. And so I kind of found a loophole in that in Melbourne there was a performing arts school that had a diploma in performing arts. So I auditioned and I got in, and I didn't finish high school and I left. And I moved to Melbourne, and I did it literally so that I didn't have to be in the house with him. And then I just kept doing it. Like, and it's not as romantic as people like to think. Like, people like to think that professional dancers are like so dance obsessed, and for me it was an escape, quite literally, physically, not just mentally. I was always the one who was good but not great. I loved performing. I adore teaching. So yeah, it just I always say that the things that I find myself into are one happy accident after another. So yeah, it's not a romantic story at all. It's just I did it to get away, and then I just kept happening to do it because, you know, by the time I got into my later years, I was like, shit, I haven't finished school, so I can't go to university unless I, you know, do the bridging and whatever. And I was not really a school study type of person. I don't even remember studying ever in school. I must have, but I don't remember that at all. And so there definitely was a point in my career where I did it because I didn't have anything else. And by that time, I was too old to get jobs in cafes or retail because I was so expensive in comparison to, and because I didn't have much experience. I definitely worked in cafes to help pay for my tuition in my younger years before I was getting a lot of dance contracts. But it was just like, and coupled with the case of, well, I don't know what else I want to do, but I like to teach, so I'll keep doing that.
So when you say that you were not great, but good, yeah, do you say that when you were comparing yourself to other dancers that you were interacting with, or that were in your class, or?
Yeah, definitely. Also, for auditions and things like that, I only went for one audition. I should have gone for more, but I was too scared. Had that first no. A dancer's life is no. A dancer's life is full of no's, and you have to be okay with that. And I wasn't. I could do it now, but now I'm too old. So, which is hilarious. Emotionally, I could handle that now, but physically, my body, I'm too old. Um, so definitely the dancers that were in my classes, the dancers that were going to the auditions, even a lot of the gigs and stuff that I got was because I know people. You know that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, that type of thing. So um, a lot of those kind of things that I was getting, it's not that I was always the first choice. And even then, when it came to competitions, I won a lot in Australia. I've won most of the categories in Australia. I'm actually thinking to compete in samba solo, cha-cha solo, and bachata solo, just so I can literally say I've won everything there is to win.
That would
For,
be amazing.
that's for my ego. Might be good for marketing, but I never use myself for marketing anyway, so who cares?
Well, I think
Uh,
you should.
I know I should, but I need to hire someone else to do my marketing so that they can use those points, because I feel like, oh, I'm second in the world. Like, I feel I got to get over that. That's another conversation. But
Hey, but if you ask me, like I'm a aficionado of dancing,
Mhm.
I say that's great. If you've been the second in the world, like you're an Australian champion, that's pretty great.
Mm.
So how do you get to that level?
Mm. Okay, combination of things. Um, I definitely trained hard, but I definitely did not train near as hard as I could have. Um, I always left choreographing my solos until 2 weeks before the comp. And I didn't realize at the time why I was doing that. But after a lot of reflection in the recent years, I realized that I was doing that because if I didn't win or I didn't place, I could say, oh, I didn't put in that much effort. um, and I could use that as an excuse, you know?
So that was your cop out to failure.
Yeah, totally.
Damn.
Um, and in terms of getting the second places in the world and getting all the Australian, I it's a combination of things. It's a bit of luck. It's the preparation. It's and when I say luck, what I mean by that is the judging panel judging a dance competition. It's what's the word? It starts with I think T. It's not like a football, right? So if Hawthorn beat Essendon, which of course they would, they win because they clearly kicked more goals. And it's very tangible. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas a dance competition, especially in the salsa world and the samba world, not in the ballroom world and the ballet world so much, because there's literally written books of technique. This is the technique, that's it. Whereas
Yeah, exactly.
salsa, there's multiple techniques. Samba, there's multiple techniques, so it's harder. But the luck of getting judges who agree with the technique that you're executing, the luck of the judges feeling like your choreography was good, because musicality is a part of the criteria. And one judge might say, oh, her choreography is not very good, and thus her musicality wasn't very good. And another judge will be like, oh, she hit every single accent and every single and I loved it. So hopefully you get enough judges that like the of your version to feel like, yes, that was good.
Yeah, and
From
also
my
their mood, and also if they like you, like
completely, completely. So yeah, um, if for my students now, I definitely tell them you have to do everything that you can do up until a point. I had one student last year who competed, and in one private lesson, that she had, I told her, go home. I'm actually not going to have the private lesson with you today. I'll waste my own hour. I won't charge you for the hour. Obviously, I can't bring another student in and make up the money for the hour, but go home because you're all over the place. You're actually not going to get any benefit from the lesson today because she had a lot going on in her life, and she wasn't able to focus. And so just like it wasn't of benefit to her to train that day. However, there is this like a fine line between you should train even when you don't want to train. However, your muscle memory is a really beautiful thing. And if you're training really poorly, it can mean injury. Therefore, you don't get to compete.
Yeah.
It can mean training in the wrong thing. It can also be detrimental to your mental health. And we all have bad training days, but she was too far gone on that particular day that it just wasn't worth it. And then I had another student who literally took a month off work to have private lessons almost every day. And then like had that mental, physical, emotional capacity to be able to do that. Not everyone can do that. I definitely couldn't take a month off work to train. I don't know many people who could. So it's a balancing. I'm 100% for the balance. And even in training for the competitions and stuff like that, it's for sure balance. So I'm always telling my students, train as much and as hard as you can, for sure, even if it's little pockets of training. But know that when you get to the comp, if you don't get the result you want, it's not always because you weren't good enough, because you didn't train hard enough. Once you're on the comp floor, it's out of your hands. It's in your muscle memory and it's in the judge's hands. So, yeah.
And how did you get to world-class level? Because you are a world-class performer. Is that something that you actually thought about? Is that I'm Angela Faith. I'm a dancer from Australia. You know what? I want to try to win the World Championship of Salsa. Is that something that you actually put in your mind as an objective, or is that something that just it just happened? I'm really good.
Okay. I never had that like, I'm Angela Faith. I'm a great this, that. None of that. I always felt, and this is going to sound really dicky, but I always felt that I had the ability to get a world title. But I still haven't gotten a world title.
Why did you think that?
I don't know. It's like it was something very strong in me that I just felt that I could get that. And as a soloist, I managed to come second in one comp. In cha-cha, I met with a partner, I managed to come second in another comp. And in salsa on one, I managed to come second in another world comp. And I was really happy to get two of them. One of them I wasn't happy to get because that was the third one, and by then I was like, oh, what's happening? Like, yeah, so now I'm not so sure what that feeling was. I always felt that I would achieve something really great personally. And even though people say second is great, and I'll tell my students second is great for them as well, still not quite good enough. But maybe maybe that great thing that I'm supposed to do is not winning a world title. I don't know. Yeah. And I used to talk about a lot. I have a friend who does taekwondo, and she got into the Olympics, and Australia only had the funds to send 4 Olympians, and she was one of the 4. And she was going to to the Olympics and I was going to world champs. And like I remember talking about our training and our like how we were preparing with our food and all that sort of stuff, because food is fuel. Plus, you also get judged on your appearance, but still, yeah. And I don't know, it was just like a sense of assurity. Not necessarily that it would be that comp. Who knows? Maybe I will get motivated again to train again another day. But now I'm feeling like I'm 35 next month. I have more injuries than I've ever had. I'm more lethargic than I've ever been. Doesn't mean that I can't train to not be like that, but having the time that you need to put into it, I also have less of that now that I have the business. So
Yeah.
it's a hard one.
Maybe after COVID, everyone will be on the same page because no one has had the time to or the space to be to world class or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe no one can travel, and then you can just create your own world championship.
Well, there's that many bloody world championships now that people do feel like it's a little bit diluted, but yeah.
What was yours? Your second places. How long ago was that?
2016 was the last one. December 2016 was the last one. December 20. I think it went 2013, 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, not too long ago. Must be sick.
I feel like that was a long time ago.
Do you have fun though? Do you have fun competing at that level? I'm very interested in the long pause.
The minute before I go on stage to compete, I always have this one thought before I walk on. Why the fuck am I doing this to myself?
Because of the pressure?
Huh?
Because of the pressure that you feel?
I don't know. And then I walk out and the crowd screams and I'm like, ah. So I don't know. The most fun I've ever had competing was the last time I competed as a soloist in Australia, and I came second. And so the way the Australian comp works, there's a world title attached to the Australian comp. So we compete as Australians during the day, and then if you come first, second, or third, you get to compete in the international category that night. So I came second as an Australian, and then I came third in the international category. But I had just come back from Cuba and had done training really solidly on all of this new way of moving and a new appreciation of salsa, and I didn't care what I placed. I just had an absolute blast. So yeah, that's the most fun I ever had competing. Yeah, and even when I compete with my students in pro-ams, that's when I feel the most pressure.
Yeah.
Because I can't gain them points, but I can lose them points as the pro. So there's a lot of pressure there. And I think about all the time, energy, money that they've spent, and I don't want to be the cause of them, so that's the most pressure I ever feel.
Do you like pressure? Or do you feel like it's fun? Like, do you feel motivated by pressure? Because, for example, I get like a little rush. I'm like, yeah, I need to prove myself. Oh, this is awesome. Anytime I had a big exam, at uni or whatever, I was like, oh, this is cool. And everyone's like freaking out. Everyone's like, no, I want this to be over. I'm like, bring it on. I want to prove how good I can be.
My life has been pressure since day one. So like I literally feel like I've lived in a pressure cooker always, so it's how I know to function. I don't know how to function without pressure. Because that's literally since I was a kid, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
So, mm,
So this
I don't,
pandemic, it's great, man. Like,
it's just another thing.
yeah,
It's like, okay, what's next? You know, I read a thing yesterday about if you were born in 1900, by the time you were 11, there was World War One. By the time you were 20, and you were born in America, there was the Great Depression. By the time you were like 30, there was the Vietnam War. By the time you were 50, there was World War Two. Like, let's see how hard we have it, kind of thing, like
yeah,
that. And I was like, wow, that's some cool perspective.
yeah. I love doing those type of perspectives. Like I've told you about cold, how I experience cold, and that I put
Yeah.
myself in different shitty situations, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Because everyone says that Melbourne is cold, you know, and there's so many people that are like, oh my God, it's freezing. And that's the first reaction to just experiencing the day. It's like they get out of bed and it's like, ooh, it's freezing, you know? But I'm like, oh, I
No,
think of them Canadians,
that's
and I'm like the Canadians.
true.
And I'm like, this is not too bad.
I think a lot of people also, though, this is how they find a way to find something in common to connect. So if if I don't really know you and I see you, the way that I can connect with you is like, hi, how are you going? And you're going to use something to connect back to me. So you find something that has commonality.
Yeah.
You say, yeah, I'm good, but it's so cold, isn't it? So that you can do this. But then if the other person goes, no, it's not, they shut you down. So it's like, oh, but I mean, I guess it depends how they do it. They could say, you serious? You find this cold? Man, I love this weather. Oh, and then you could continue.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously the way that you approach that. But yeah, I think people are trying to connect or so hot or whatever, you know?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I totally get that. And I think it's understandable. But I think that people should choose to focus on positives to connect with other people, which is
Mm.
really hard because there's a stigma about positive people or pe people that have that mindset. Is like, oh, you're always positive. Like you want to be perfect, you know, you want to like, who do you think you are kind of thing. So there's
Well, they say the biggest connection you'll get is through trauma. Like, you know, people who've gone through. Did you hear about that? I don't know why this one came to my head, but many, many, many years ago, there's a movie called Day of the Roses, yeah? And a train in Sydney on what do you call when everyone's going to work?
commute.
Yeah, but it's packed.
Okay.
Um,
Peak
so the
peak hour.
train, yeah, peak hour, that's it, good one. So the train derails and hits the side of a bridge, and the bridge collapses on the train. So people in cars, all of that, there's all of the injury, plus the people who are in the trains, they experience, um, you know, people are crushed, all this kind of thing, and how to like the people who are helping them get out. Um, the movies based on helping the people get out anyway, and people ended up throwing roses all over the train once everyone was out, so that's why it's called Day of the Roses anyway. um, and they say that a lot of the most beautiful friendships came from two people who were stuck,
Yeah.
or survivor and the person who helped them survive, you know. So I think that we're programmed that way. I think that what I feel that we really, really lack is celebrating other people's achievements, or the good things that happen to them. I don't think we do that enough.
Yeah.
We celebrate a wedding, we celebrate a birth, we celebrate
A promotion?
a
Celebrate.
but how many people do make sure that they like celebrate that? Um, I think it's like, oh, good on you, mate. You got to, but how often do it's more uncommon than common that a group of friends will go out for dinner to celebrate someone's promotion, a
Yeah.
friend's promotion within the thing, or you know, you finished uni. That's great. Let's take all of our friends and go have dinner to celebrate the fact that you achieved something you've worked so hard on. I don't think we do that enough.
Mm.
So I think, you know, celebrating a birthday, you didn't do anything for that. You just stayed alive. And we celebrate that. So why are we not celebrating the things that, you know?
As well, yeah. I
Yeah,
agree with that.
really.
Yeah. I think we need to um, encourage others to encourage others. You know, I
100%.
think that once you have that outlook, it's like, all right, you actually have you're lucky. You're lucky that you actually have internalized that you've given yourself the chance to view it that way. And that's a
There's
responsibility.
reason though. Like I'm talking the last couple of months. I have a girlfriend who her group of friends, her good group of friends, they do celebrate each other's things. And I always think, God, how beautiful that one of you bought a house, so you guys all went out to celebrate. And um, one of the girls in our Samba team, she just got engaged. And so from our Samba team, I told the girls, come on, let's send her flowers. I think that we need to, especially right now, but I definitely, the whole connecting in a positive way, I would like to do a lot more. Because even myself, I feel like I'm not married. One day I will most likely get married. I don't have a kid. Nobody celebrated me having a business. Nobody celebrate, like my friends who have kids and weddings. Man, it's not about the dollar or the time, but I've spent thousands of dollars on my friends who have multiple kids now, you know, and we're always celebrating this new thing and that new thing, but me, I don't get, no one celebrates anything for me, my birthday. But the hardest I ever worked was my business, and there's no like, yeah, let's like, I don't, so I would definitely like to do that more for people. I mean, it's also got to be balanced as well. I can't be going to dinner every single day for someone, you know.
You
But
brush your teeth today. Yeah, let's celebrate. Let's get drunk.
yeah, exactly. But I think when you have a core group of
Yeah.
friends, that's it's just such a nice thing to celebrate another person.
Yeah. Do you think that it's because people feel self-conscious about it to like start that dynamic?
I don't think people think about it. I think people are so enthralled in their own lives. I have an acquaintance, I'm going to say, who, this is secondhand information, so I haven't spoken to either parties, but I had another friend who said that friend A messaged friend B during this time of the pandemic and was like, I can't believe you haven't messaged me during this time. I'm having a really hard time. You're not a very good friend since you haven't reached out, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And friend B could very well have been like, oh, you're so right. I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible friend. But also friend B might be going through a massive like trauma of the pandemic themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me during this time, I've tried to make an effort to be the one reaching out, not to be the one calling in. Because all in all, I'm not doing so bad. And that's what I want to cultivate within my studio. So I need to do that on a personal level as well. because the studio is full of persons. So I think, yeah, a lot of people are just too stuck in their own world, in their own thing, and that type of response really shows that. And that's a very common thing. Like, if I could count the amount of times on Instagram I've seen the post, my real friends would be reaching out like,
Yeah,
mate, you're
that's a
in the
big
same
eye roll
country.
moment. It's like,
Yeah,
I
totally.
think you create things. Something that you want, create it. You know, I think energy creates energy. You know, you have no one messaging you, start messaging people. That's how
Yeah,
you're gonna get people
absolutely.
messaging you back. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with taking the initiative, and I think, especially for something positive,
yeah,
because it's like, yeah, if you have a friend and they haven't messaged you in a while, just message them. Just
yeah.
don't be like, oh, they're shit friends.
There is, and I think that it's also okay to have a line and to have boundaries. So I have a personal thing, yeah. It's called the rule of three. I will contact you and I will make effort with you 3 times. Then I'll leave it in your hands. If you
Yeah,
never contact me again, we've never talk again.
yeah.
Uh,
Reciprocity, yeah. I'm big on that as well.
reciprocity.
Definitely. Like from friends, when I want to make a move on a girl, you know, or anything.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, there has to be reciprocity. Like, then
completely. Complete. I need to go to the toilet.
yeah, actually, me too. But I was actually thinking of let's stop this now because so we can do another one soon. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I've drank obscene amounts of yerba mate, so I'm like, I need to be as
I
well.
finished this 1.25 liter bottle.
Nice. Before we go, is there
Yeah.
one thing that you would recommend your 19, 18-year-old self?
Uh, just not to care. Not to care what other people think.
Amen.
Cliche, it's been said 100 times before, but I'm still stuck in that. At 35, I'm only just starting to get out of it. I was shit scared to release the Bachata challenge, even though I had some students that asked me to release it. Because I was like, oh, no, I don't want to. And I get scared to post my own videos of me dancing because I'm afraid of what people think. I'm afraid that my students will look at my video and go, oh, actually, she's not that good. And then look at someone else's video and be like, oh, she's amazing. I should go to her.
Yeah.
And I don't think your dancing ties in that tightly to your teaching ability. But that's another story. So yeah, my thing would be to just not care. Not care.
And for people that have no idea who you are, where can they find you? Where do you want to send them?
Personal or business?
Anything you want.
Well, my studio is called Energia Studios, and my personal stuff is Angela Faith, like praying to God Faith, however, with a Y. Faith, Fayth.
Excelente. Thank you, my friend. This has been
Thank you.
a pleasure. And,
Chat.
you can go pee.
Thank you. See you. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Bye.
Ciao.